This past weekend, the 2026 Pokemon Go Indian National Qualifiers were held. This was a massive tournament, with trainers competing for the opportunity to earn a guaranteed invitation to the Pokemon Go World Championships later this year. This was also the first official tournament in which the new Comday Tinkaton with his move of Gigaton Hammer was eligible, so the eyes of the competitive Pokemon Go world were focused on this tournament to see what strategies ended up emerging victorious. And well, at the end of a long weekend of battling for the second year in a row, Master Mahir emerged victorious and claimed the crown. Today I'm going to be taking you round by round, showcasing Master Mahir's climb to the top to claim the championship for the second year in a row. Master Mahir's team for this tournament featured Galarian Corsola, Empoleon, Shadow Quagsire running Mud Bomb instead of Stone Edge, Togekiss, Shadow Fortress with Bug Bite, and Umbreon. Definitely a different looking team to what we've seen a lot of this season, but this team, he ended up going 12-1 across the 6 rounds and completing a full 6-0 sweep. In round number 1, Master Mahir's opponent was against Ikagra, who was running a team with Diggersby, Credilli, Aegislash, Altaria, Feraligatr, and Shadow Fortress. The battle was locked in for game number 1, and it was a pretty tough lead for Master Mahir, Togekiss into Credilli. Master Mahir gonna safe switch into Umbreon, and it appears his opponent does not have a strong answer. They're just gonna stay in, so Umbreon gets to fire off a foul play and actually grab an early shield from Credilli. Now that Credilli has shielded up the first charge attack, it's gonna be able to apply Rock Tomb debuff after Rock Tomb debuff, making life uncomfortable for the Umbreon. Umbreon gonna farm up 3 Snarls, firing off another foul play. This is a single debuff foul play, so it's not gonna do much. Credilli looked to try and overfarm even more, and Mahir is gonna take advantage, firing off the foul play on alignment just to guarantee a little bit of extra damage before that second Rock Tomb debuff gets applied. While Credilli is gonna be winning this mid-game quite handily, I would argue this mid-game is a win for Umbreon. Master Mahir was able to get the Credilli very low, he was able to get a shield advantage, and Credilli is going to be forced to fire off energy. Credilli not going to be able to farm down. Now Mahir could absorb energy on Corsola and trust in 2-shield Togekiss. Mahir waits down the timer, in comes Corsola into an instant Rock Tomb from the Credilli. This is really not going to do much. There's a pivot out, in comes Feraligatr, and a quick switch as in comes Togekiss. Togekiss is going to have a pretty nice matchup here against Feraligatr, especially being up a shield. Aura Sphere will not take the knockout, but will get a shield from the Feraligatr. Feraligatr will be able to make back-to-back Hydro Cannons before it does get knocked out. First Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded, and Feraligatr is going to fire off Hydro Cannon number 2. Aura Sphere would not quite knock out from this range, so instead, Togekiss is going to look to overfarm and take the KO. With the extra peck damage, Aura Sphere is going to be knocking out the Feraligatr, and Togekiss is still very, very healthy. The Credilli is going to get outpaced if it gets brought back in. Opponent reveals their final Pokemon is Altaria. Psyshock banked for later, in comes Corsola, and Corsola with the debuff reset now gets to connect with the Power Gem. Power Gem lands, that is big damage onto the Altaria. It looks like the opponent could be in trouble. Altaria goes for the Sky Attack, Corsola hangs on, Corsola's not getting farmed down, Corsola is gonna make the Nightshade, and that forces energy out of Altaria. Altaria able to knock out the Corsola, but there's an entire charge stack loaded on Togekiss. In comes Togekiss, very nice overfarm, firing off the Aura Sphere to cover for a catch. Aura Sphere knocks out Altaria, in comes Credilli. Credilli will fall to the Aura Sphere, and despite a very tough lead, Master Mahir is going to be taking game number 1 as Togekiss up energy was just simply too deadly. The battle is locked in for game number 2, and it's a dominant lead win, Empoleon into Credilli. Instant save switch from the opponent into Feraligatr, but I don't think Feraligatr is going to like what happens next. Empoleon launches Drill Peck gets shielded, and now in comes Umbreon. Umbreon is just such a nightmare for Feraligatr to deal with. The Shadow Claws are resisted, 2 Hydro Cannons don't come anywhere close to picking up the knockout, so Umbreon is in complete control. Umbreon firing back with the foul play, that's going to connect, and the next foul play after this should be very close to securing the KO. Hydro Cannon number 2 is going to connect onto the Umbreon. It looks like Umbreon should actually be able to survive a 3rd Hydro Cannon as well. The bulk of this Pokemon is absurd. Last Resort forces the final shield. Umbreon reaching for the foul play, but not quite able to get there. No shield comes out from Master Mahir. Hydro barely takes the knockout, and unfortunately, Umbreon will fall. However, in comes Shadow Quagsire. Quagsire reaching for the Aqua Tail, losing charge attack priority, but Master Mahir is trusting in the fact that his 2-shield Empoleon simply cannot lose this endgame. Aqua Tail will knock out the Feraligatr. Credilli should get brought back in here. In comes Empoleon and the reveal. It's Aegislash in the back. If Empoleon did not have the 2 shield advantage, this could be a losing endgame, but with 2 shields to hide behind, Empoleon should be able to close out this game. Hydro Cannon is going to land Empoleon massively over farming, just shy of 100 energy before unleashing Hydro Cannon number 2. 3 Hydros will miss the knockout here, but it's not going to be by much. That does end up being a charge attack priority tie. Aegislash now going to switch into Blade form as it fires off Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball would one-shot the Empoleon, so Empoleon is forced to put up a shield. Empoleon going to double shield. Switch timer's now up, so the opponent will be able to pivot out and send back in Cradily. In comes Cradily, but Cradily is just so far behind on energy. Empoleon already almost at back-to-back Hydro Cannons. First Hydro Cannon connects. Second Hydro Cannon should just about take the knockout here. Hydro Cannon is going to land. Cradily survives, but what a catch. Able to save the Empoleon and catch the Grass Knot onto the Quagsire. Now back in comes the Empoleon, able to get the Metal Sound down. In comes Aegislash, but the Aegislash has just simply taken too much damage in this game. Empoleon getting as much Metal Sound damage as possible, firing off the Hydro Cannon at the Aegislash. That secures the knockout, and that's a round 1 win for Master Mahir. In round number 2, Master Mahir's opponent was Sid B, who was running Double Fairy with Tinkaton and Wigglytuff, Shadow Quagsire, Corviknight, Altaria, and Forretress. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's a very neutral lead matchup, Galarian Corsola into Tinkaton. Tinkaton does outpace in this matchup, but not going to throw right away, instead just going to look to absorb the Nightshade and overfarm. This is easily enough for a Gigaton Hammer. No shield comes out, and the Gigaton Hammer rocks the Corsola. Corsola is able to outpace here. So Corsola, while it typically can't secure the knockout with Nightshade, will be able to put that Tinkaton very low. But Tinkaton not going to surrender its HP just yet, puts up the shield, and Corsola is going to no shield. Gigaton Hammer takes the knockout. This could be a very tempting farm down for the Empoleon. Empoleon hits the field. Bulldoze will hit for super effective, but Bulldoze is not a particularly threatening move. Bulldoze lands, does get the debuff. In comes Altaria to be swiftly answered with the Togekiss. But this is genuinely not a strong matchup for Togekiss without Dazzling Gleam. The Altaria is up energy, and how is the Togekiss going to inflict meaningful damage here? The Pex and the Psyshock are neutral, but they really don't do a lot. Even 2 Psyshocks will fail to take the knockout, and that's why Togekiss did not fire off the Psyshock just yet, because it would have failed to take the KO. Togekiss gonna try and overfarm quite a bit, and what a catch from the opponent. Switch timer is up. There's the Psyshock catch back onto the Tinkaton. Sensational plays from Sid. Now, the timer is weighted down. Sid's gonna bring back in the Altaria, and Altaria will be hit with the Psyshock. Psyshock not gonna take the knockout, but will get Altaria very low. That sets up the farm down for Togekiss. In the back is Wigglytuff, and this should be a game 1 win for Master Mahir. Aura Sphere is going to do sizable damage onto the Wigglytuff, and there's the combo play with Empoleon. Empoleon just has too much energy. It's simply too healthy, and Sid knows it. There's the no shield. Empoleon takes the win, and we move to game number 2. Unfortunately, it looks like I accidentally put the 1 next to Sid's name instead of Master Mahir's name, so apologies for that. It is Master Mahir who won that game number 1. For game number 2, it's a pretty neutral lead, Shadow Quagsire into Galarian Corsola. Quagsire spamming out the Aqua Tails, able to inflict some very nice damage onto that Corsola before Corsola's ever able to fire off a charge attack. But there's Corsola going for the Nightshade, getting a shield from the Quagsire, making it to Nightshade number 2, and really ramping up the pressure. Is Quagsire going to double shield? Yes, Quagsire fully investing. Quagsire can now go for an Aqua Tail into a Mudshot farm down. Master Mahir does not want to let that happen. He pivots out into Empoleon. This is not a Mud Bomb Quagsire, so he knows that he can survive this, but Aqua Tail Chip will still add up. Empoleon makes the Hydro, but there's a catch from Sid. He's able to save the Quagsire for later, and instead send in Altaria. That is a pretty tough catch for Master Mahir, because unfortunately, the next Drill Peck will not set up a Metal Sound farm down. He's going to need 3 charge stacks to knock out the Altaria, and his Empoleon is firmly in Sky Attack range, so he's going to have to shield something. Shield does come up as Sky Attack comes through from the Altaria. Empoleon able to overfarm by 1, but Empoleon has paid a very heavy price, as now it's deep into the red HP. Drill Peck knocks out the Altaria, back in comes the Quagsire, so Sid's final Pokemon still yet to be revealed. This Quagsire is going to outpace Master Mahir's Quagsire, so he's going to have to put up a shield or go for a catch. He goes for a catch, but it's a simultaneous switch, Corsola into Wigglytuff. And now, this is where things get quite bad. There's a lot of energy stored on Sid's Quagsire. Master Mahir fires off the Aqua Tail. He's continuing to farm up, but he needs to try and exit with a charge stack. He's going to be no shielding as Swift connects. That does do a lot of damage. Can Shadow Quagsire Mud Bomb into a farm down? That is the win con. Mud Bomb is going to connect. He tries for the Mud Shot down, but it's a simultaneous knockout. Sid still has his Quagsire alive, so we're going to a game number 3. And unfortunately for Master Mahir, game number 3 is not looking like a great start, leading Corsola into Wigglytuff, and the Safe Switch Empoleon immediately hard countered with the Volt Switch Fortress. Volt Switch Fortress does not win the zeros into Empoleon, so Master Mahir will be able to generate a shield advantage out of the mid game or a switch advantage, because he will barely be able to withstand that final Volt Switch and make it to the Hydro Cannon. This will guarantee a shield advantage out of this mid game, which is a pretty nice setup for the Shadow Bug Bite Fortress in the back. Fortress up a shield looks very strong into all of Sid's remaining Pokemon. In comes the Corsola. Rock Tomb is going to connect. Corsola looking for a farm down, but not quite able to get there before yet another charge attack is going to be launched. It's only the Sand Tomb this time. There's the switch. Shadow Bug Bite Fortress gets the farm down. In the back, it's Altaria. Normally, this would be a catastrophic matchup, but Shadow Fortress is up a shield and up energy, and that's the advantage that it's going to need to win this game. That's going to be a charge attack priority tie. Rock Tomb to the Sky Attack. Shield comes up from the Fortress because even a Sky Attack cannot be allowed to land. Fortress is going to get outpaced, so Fortress will be forced to give up its final Protect Shield, but the Bug Bites are doing so much damage into the Altaria, getting it closer and closer to range. Fortress with a massive overfarm, firing off the Rock Tomb. This needs to be enough to secure the knockout. Rock Tomb is going to land. Altaria switches out into the Wigglytuff. It cannot concede the farm down, but now Fortress gets the Rock Tomb. This Rock Tomb will be devastating damage. Rock Tomb connects onto the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff gonna have to throw energy, but no charge attack that it could learn could take the knockout here. They fire off the Swift. Fortress survives. There's the switch into Corsola, and Corsola will take the knockout with Power Gem. Power Gem knocks out the Wigglytuff. In comes Altaria. Altaria falls to the Astonish, and Master Mahir advances to round number 3. His round number 3 opponent is Legacy Xenon, who's running Tinkaton, Shadow Charjabug, Seaking, Guzzlord, Gourgeist, and Licky Licky. The battlers get set for game number 1, and it's a very strong lead for Master Mahir. Shadow Fortress into Shadow Charjabug. The Shadow Charjabug does allow its Volt Switches to hit harder, but this Pokemon is getting shredded by the Shadow Bug Bites. This charge will be shielded. Fortress firing off the Rock Tomb, and this Rock Tomb will easily pick up the knockout unless Legacy Xenon matches shields. Legacy will put up the shield. Master Mahir going to be double shielding Fortress. Can Fortress commit to the full Bug Bite farm down? It's going to be close. Fortress trying to get there, gets the farm down, and exits with quite a lot of residual energy. In comes Tinkaton. Tinkaton going to be instantly Sand Tomb debuffed, and this Shadow Fortress is putting on an absolute show. Fortress will even make it to a second Sand Tomb unless the Bulldoze is reached. Tinkaton fires off the Bulldoze. Bulldoze is going to connect. Bulldoze fails to take the knockout. In comes Guzzlord, and Guzzlord is going to be answered with Togekiss. Togekiss going to be hit with a brutal swing because this Guzzlord is running Dragon Claw. It's not running Sludge Bomb, and that is absolutely catastrophic because that means this Guzzlord does not have any coverage for Togekiss whatsoever. Togekiss fires off the Aura Sphere. This Aura Sphere is guaranteed to connect. Opponent knows there's just simply no way out of this game. They're trying to trust in Tinkaton, but even Tinkaton will not be able to get the sweep. Aura Sphere will be shielded, able to make Aura Sphere number 2 on the charge attack priority tie, and that's going to be game over. There's a Sand Tomb loaded on the Fortress as well, so for this game number 1, it's such a dominant win that Corsola was not even needed. Gigaton Hammer takes the knockout, but in comes Shadow Fortress. Shadow Fortress launching Sand Tomb, securing the game 1 win for Master Mahir. The battlers lock in for game number 2, and we've got the Battle of Dark Types, Umbreon into Guzzlord. This matchup will typically be favored towards the Dragon Claw Guzzlord. Umbreon farms up, tries for a Dragon Claw catch, doesn't get it, but the opponent actually stays in to fire off energy. This is a definite misplay from the opponent, as Brutal Swing is really not going to do much. In comes Tinkaton, but it's not like Tinkaton needs any help for a Gigaton Hammer to take a one-hit KO. Up energy, Togekiss does have a very clean 2-shield matchup here, as the Aura Spheres do considerable damage onto the Tinkaton, and the Pecks, even though they're resisted, add up quite a bit as well. Togekiss gonna be investing a shield. Is this a Gigaton Hammer? No, it's not. It's gonna be a Bulldoze Bait. That does save energy for the opponent, and unfortunately that means Togekiss is now gonna have to double shield. There's the Gigaton Hammer from the Tinkaton, but Togekiss will be able to get a full farm down 2 shields, but with all the energy it could ever ask for. In comes Gourgeist, but Gourgeist is really not going to appreciate the Psyshocks. Psyshock will be shielded. Togekiss only going to throw 1 peck. as the Incinerate will be able to take the knockout. Oh, actually it doesn't. Togekiss hangs on 1 HP, but bad news for the Gourgeist, as it's now going to be stuck against Umbreon. Umbreon has so much stored energy. Foul Play is going to be shielded. There's the pivot into Guzzlord. And unfortunately for the Guzzlord, it's just going to get completely shut down by the Fortress. These Bug Bites are adding up. Brutal Swing is going to connect. And Brutal Swing does a lot of damage, but it does not get the 2-hit knockout. Brutal Swing number 2 is going to land. That's a very easy survive for the Fortress. Guzzlord can finally take the knockout, but the damage is done. Guzzlord is now firmly in last resort range. In comes the Umbreon. Umbreon will be able to take the knockout, and there's just simply nothing that Gourgeist can do. In comes Gourgeist. They can even have 3 Seed Bombs, which would be impossible. That's well over 100 energy, and that still would not take the knockout. Umbreon just has such a dominant matchup. Umbreon now gets the hit back with the Foul Play, and the Gourgeist just has no HP remaining. This Foul Play is massive overkill, giving Master Mahir the 2-0 series victory, and he's moving on to round number 4. His round 4 opponent is running a team with Umbreon, Diggersby, Corviknight, Guzzlord, Galarian Corsola, and Piloswine. Piloswine definitely more of an anti-meta pick, but did recently win a tournament over in Europe. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's Shadow Quagsire into Guzzlord. This is one of the matchups that is improved by having access to Mud Bomb, as Mud Bomb gives Quagsire really nice consistency in matchups where Aqua Tail is resisted. But he's just going to look to bank energy, save switch Togekiss, and his opponent is going to respond with Empoleon. But Empoleon is not a strong answer to a Togekiss up energy, as Togekiss is just strictly going to be able to outpace due to that energy head start and guarantee that switch is going to be flipped. And that means that Shadow Quagsire's energy is no longer going to be stuck on the Guzzlord, but instead Guzzlord is going to be put onto the Empoleon. Aura Sphere lands, Togekiss pecks down, and the final Pokemon is revealed to be Corviknight. And because of that energy head start, Togekiss able to make an Aura Sphere as well. This Togekiss is just completely taking over. Quick pivot out, Togekiss has been preserved, in comes the Quagsire, Quagsire launches the Aqua Tail, and back in comes the Guzzlord. But bad news for the Guzzlord, Guzzlord's now going to be hit with a Mud Bomb inflicting some pretty significant damage. Guzzlord will finally get to take the knockout, but Guzzlord has lost almost his entire health bar. However, Guzzlord traded that health bar for a massive head start on energy. In comes Empoleon, Brutal Swing guaranteed to land, and this is going to add up. There's a switch into Togekiss looking for a snipe down, but the Guzzlord survives. Guzzlord makes a Brutal Swing. Will this take the knockout? No, it will not. Togekiss cannot get the Aura Sphere as Corviknight snipes down. In comes Empoleon. Corviknight not at enough for a payback. No shield comes through. Air Cutter does not get the boost, and that is massive. Corviknight just going to go straight Air Cutter in this matchup. Empoleon putting up the shield. Empoleon firing off the Hydro Cannon right away. Empoleon should now be guaranteed to outpace the Corviknight. Hydro Cannon is going to be no shielded. Can Guzzlord make the move? Guzzlord cannot. It faints. And that's a game 1 win for Master Mahir. The battlers lock in for game number 2, and it's a slightly negative lead. Empoleon into Corsola. Empoleon does have a pacing advantage, but the sheer bulk of Galarian Corsola means that it a little bit overwhelms Empoleon in the zeros. However, that is an amazing start, able to land a Hydro Cannon and then catch a Nightshade onto Umbreon. Umbreon going to be answered with Empoleon, but Empoleon does not feel like a strong check to Umbreon by any means. Umbreon's bulk means that it's just going to be able to outlast Empoleon neutrally. Empoleon will look to hit back hard with Hydro Cannon, but even a Hydro Cannon is not going to be enough to 2-hit KO. That is the bulk of Umbreon. Umbreon able to shake off that damage, fire off another Foul Play, and this will be putting the Empoleon very low. Empoleon will make another Hydro Cannon, but they don't throw it. They look to overfarm, and now they're going to be forced to go down a shield. Foul Play forces a shield. Empoleon will take the knockout with Hydro Cannon, but Umbreon has definitely done its job. The Hydro Cannon lands. Umbreon still does not get knocked out. I thought for sure it would get KO'd. This Pokemon's bulk is just absolutely absurd. In comes Quagsire. Looks like Quagsire did get the 1-turn bring in there, which is very unfortunate. No Mudshot Sneak. Shield comes up on the Hydro Cannon, and it's Guzzlord in the back. Another scenario where having Mud Bomb on the Quagsire is a definite plus. Quagsire fires off the Mud Bomb. That's going to be no shielded by the Guzzlord. And Quagsire just going to go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail could set up a farm down if it's no shielded, so Guzzlord will put up the shield. In comes Empoleon, reaching for the Drill Peck, but can't quite get there before Guzzlord fires off the Brutal Swing. But Empoleon now has the Drill Peck, winning Charge Attack priority. This is going to be knocking out the Guzzlord, and with Guzzlord's energy lost, there's no path forward in this game for the opponent. They can send back in the Corsola. Corsola hoping to farm down. They get a catch, but it's just too little too late. because they've managed to neutralize the Empoleon, but there's still an entire Shadow Quagsire with a shield. In comes Shadow Quagsire. Quagsire is going to make the Mud Bomb, and Mud Bomb will be knocking out the Corsola and taking the win. Nightshade will be shielded. It's not even a charge stack priority tie. Corsola not even at the back-to-back, but Mud Bomb will be knocking out the Corsola. Master Mahir moves to 4-0 in the tournament. He's on to round 5. His opponent in round number 5 is Nava Empire, running a team with Unova Stunfisk, Talonflame, Wigglytuff, Jellicent, Credilli, and Shadow Fortress. The battlers get set for game number 1, and it's a bit of a tricky lead. Galarian Corsola into Jellicent. Corsola is used to being the dominant ghost type in any meta that it's a part of, but Jellicent with its straight 4 pace into Shadow Ball can typically make 3 Shadow Balls of the 2 shield if Corsola ever fires off energy. Corsola will go for the Nightshade. This will guarantee a shield from the Jellicent, but it does mean the Jellicent should be able to hang on here and make it to a 4th Shadow Ball. Now that's a pretty big problem for the Corsola because Corsola will get knocked out. So unfortunately, Master Mahir, he's not going to get this farm down. He's going to be forced to save all that Corsola energy and catch a Shadow Ball onto the Shadow Quagsire. Shadow Quagsire takes massive damage. In comes Wigglytuff. As Nava correctly reads that with a Corsola lead, it's highly likely there's a strong answer to Wigglytuff in the back. Aqua Tail is going to land. Quagsire desperately trying to make another Aqua Tail, unable to get there. But now, this is the opportunity that Master Mahir was waiting for. The reverse farm from Empoleon. Wigglytuff goes for the Swift. That's really not going to do much. And Empoleon can just absorb energy, get a full farm down, and this energy is going to be very difficult for Nava to deal with. Timer's up. In comes Unova Stunfisk, but Stunfisk is already too far behind. Hydro Cannon will be shielded, but Empoleon's gonna make Hydro Cannon number 2, and this damage is guaranteed to land. No more Protect Shields to hide behind. It connects, and there's the combo play into the Corsola. Corsola already at the back-to-back Nightshades. Nightshade number 1 is gonna connect, and Corsola should be able to absorb the Mud Bomb, farm down, and exit with a charge attack loaded for that Wigglytuff. In comes Wigglytuff. He opts to go for the double resisted Nightshade. This will not take the knockout, but will put the Wigglytuff low. Is he going to set up a farm down? Oh my goodness, what a play. The double resisted Nightshade into the double resisted Astonish farm down to leave with the Nightshade to KO the Jellicent and take the win. In comes Stunfisk. Stunfisk takes the knockout with Discharge, but Empoleon gets the Metal Sound down, and that's going to be a game 1 win for Master Mahir. Battlers get set for game number 2, and it's a Nightmare lead Corsola into Wigglytuff. Master Mahir saves switches Empoleon, but he has Umbreon in the back. He ran ABA weak to the Wigglytuff. The Wigglytuff was brought on the lead, and now Master Mahir has to preserve this Empoleon under any circumstances. He's going to need to try and burn the switch timer, save the Empoleon, and bait back out the Wigglytuff, because that is the only hope for Umbreon being able to close out this game. He does get the shield call right on the first Shadow Ball, now gets to fire off Drill Packs. That Drill Pack does actually pressure away a shield. In comes Corsola, no catch comes through, but back in comes the Wigglytuff. This is what Master Mahir was hoping for. He's baiting back out the Wigglytuff. He's going to try and neutralize it with Empoleon, and then trust that the Umbreon will be able to close out this game. Wigglytuff can't do much in terms of damage, but Icy Wind will slow down the damage output from Corsola considerably. Corsola goes for a second Power Gem, but this is debuffed, which means Wigglytuff will be able to comfortably survive. Wigglytuff will go for the Icy Wind. This is not going to be enough to knock out the Corsola. Corsola able to hang on. There's a switch into Jellicent, but guess what, Jellicent? It's Umbreon in the back. Umbreon hits the field as Jellicent fires off Blind Energy. It's a Blind Shadow Ball. That is disastrous for Nava. Nava will now fire off the Surf, but this Umbreon just simply does not care. Umbreon gets to go for the full Snarl farm down. Another Surf is reached, but Umbreon just absorbs whatever Jellicent throws. Surf lands, in comes Empoleon. There's energy on everything. What could possibly win in the back for Nava? The answer is nothing, as Nava resigns the match. We now move to the grand finals, Master Mahir versus Fake XX Soul, and Fake is running a team with Shadow Malamar, Empoleon, Diggersby, Shadow Fortress, Togekiss, and Licky Licky. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's a pretty neutral lead, Empoleon into Licky Licky. Empoleon is slightly favored here, but Licky Licky can still hit back hard for some pretty considerable Shadow Ball damage. Licky Licky fires off the Shadow Ball on alignment, just looking to connect with some damage before save switching into Empoleon. But that ends up being a poor decision, as Empoleon is swiftly hard punished with the Shadow Mud Bomb Quagsire. Mud Bomb allows Quagsire to devastate Empoleon. Normally, Quagsire is completely walled here, but with Mud Bomb is a very big problem. That's going to force Fake Soul to put up the shield. Fake Soul now has to potentially try and double shield his way out of this to try and preserve the Empoleon. If he doesn't, he's just getting knocked out. Mud Bomb number 2 is going to connect. Taking the knockout in the back is Togekiss. And oh my goodness, Fake Soul ran a line incredibly weak to Empoleon. In comes Empoleon, the hard switch from Master Mahir. Hydro Cannon's gonna land, but there's more where that came from. Already at Hydro Cannon number 2, almost at Hydro Cannon number 3. Empoleon just completely running away with this game. Charge stack reached by the Licky. Body Slam will be shielded. Empoleon gonna throw 2 and the move to guarantee that it's on curve to make the Hydro Cannon. That's going to take the knockout. Back in comes the Togekiss. Hydro Cannon is reached, and that's going to be the Game 1 win for Master Mahir. Hydro Cannon lands devastating damage onto the Togekiss. Togekiss fires off a last-second charge stack as it fails to peck farm down, but that's just too little too late. Master Mahir sends in the Quagsire. He does not quite get to hide his third Pokemon. He's going to have to bring in his own Togekiss to throw one singular peck to knock out the opponent and take the Game 1 win. Battlers lock in for game number 2, and it's a pretty nice lead Empoleon into Togekiss. This charge attack priority tie is IV dependent. Master Mahir not going to throw just yet. Instead, just going to put up the shield as Togekiss goes for the Aura Sphere and look to overfarm. There's a safe switch into Shadow Malamar, but Shadow Malamar is quite behind. Empoleon already had back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and if Malamar ends up double shielding, Master Mahir has a pretty clear path to send in Togekiss. Malamar does double shield, in comes Togekiss, and now Togekiss can absorb the Foul Play, go for the Aura Sphere, and that should just about knock out the Malamar. Foul Play is going to connect, Togekiss overfarms, and that is a mistake. That's going to allow Fake Soul to burn the Switch Timer, Foul Play lands, there's the pivot out, and in comes Togekiss. The Malamar has been preserved, and that could be a problem. Psyshock lands onto Togekiss. Togekiss does get the farm down, but now in comes Galarian Corsola. Galarian Corsola, more than happy to get the full farm down here. Psyshock not going to do much. Fake Soul went for the Aura Sphere, anticipating a catch onto Empoleon, but no catch came through. Instead, the reveal of Diggersby in the back, and Empoleon needs to land a Hydro Cannon. Fire Punch bait will be shielded. Empoleon undertaps, and no catch comes through for Fake Soul. This Hydro Cannon landing should be game winning, as Empoleon is going to get knocked out by the Diggersby, but now this Diggersby is in a range where Corsola should be able to deal with it. Scorching Sands will take the knockout. In comes Corsola. There's a pivot into Shadow Malamar, but Shadow Malamar is completely energy dry. That allows Mahir to throw 3 Astonishes. Nightshade will take the knockout, and this Corsola is still very, very healthy. Back in comes the Diggersby. Diggersby's gonna need at least 2 Scorching Sands. While this Power Gem won't take the knockout, it will firmly put into Nightshade range. Corsola getting ever closer. It now has the Nightshade, which means this game is over. Scorching Sands is going to connect. Corsola survives. Master Mahir doesn't even throw the Nightshade. He's going for the Power Gem. Power Gem knocks out Diggersby, and Master Mahir wins the Indian Regional Qualifiers. Massive congratulations to Master Mahir. Back-to-back Indian Regional Qualifier champion is a pretty incredible accomplishment. He had an amazing run at the World Championships last year, so I'm very excited now that he earns his qualification once again, what he can do at the 2026 Pokemon Go World Championships. This tournament was not streamed, so massive thank you to Master Mahir for sharing this footage, not only so that we get to showcase his amazing accomplishment as the back-to-back regional qualifier champion, but that we also get to see what a meta looks like post Tinkaton Calm Day, now that Tinkaton with Gigaton Hammer is a top meta threat. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoy watching content like this centered around the Pokemon Go Championship Series, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and I'll see you guys in the next one.